Hey everyone, it's Sherry with Squatchable, and I'm just doing a little bit of a follow-up to the story, the campfire story that we put up yesterday, the Canoer Rescued by Bigfoot, because I noticed a lot of people had the same questions about it, and I thought it'd be nice to just kind of go over it all right here. So this story was sent to us. It's one of those ones that kind of stuck in our heads. We always remembered it. The person wanted to be anonymous. We thought it would be a really fascinating story to bring forward. I kind of updated a few things. Number one, the whole territory markers, Honey Nut Cheerios scent things. With YouTube and Facebook videos, you cannot say certain words that may be perfectly scientific. So I was hoping that y'all would get the hint about what was happening in the circle around the canoer. It was overall, it was like a very good story, but a lot of these reports that come to us, sometimes they're a little rough around the edges and hard to read and stuff. So I just kind of tidied it up a little bit and decided we put it underneath the campfire stories thing. So it is a little bit modified from its original format. This encounter that was sent to us happened in the British Columbia area. The person, even though it was read from my voice, it was actually a male. As for when this happened, it was in the late 90s is what the email said. So one of the primary things I've seen from a lot of people is talking about the use of fire in this encounter. And it's actually not the first time it's been heard of. And I've heard a lot of people mention that these creatures, these hairy humans as we're calling them in the story, they are primitive types of people. And if you think about it, we have fire. How did we get fire? Back then when we were primitive, we had fire. I wouldn't completely rule out that they're able to use fire, whether it be that they understand about friction or the whole lightning, knowing how to manage a fire. Or who knows, maybe they go around our campfires and watch people, or go around us while we're camping and watch people using matches and lighters. I'm not sure. But it's not the first time that I have seen fire mentioned in encounters. Look at other primates. They actually do know how to use tools, and if the creatures have a higher level of intelligence, anything's possible. But we did find that when we saw this report come to us way back then, that was such a fascinating factor for us. Another possibility is maybe they understand how to transport fire, and there's campers nearby. Maybe some fire, like a stick that was already burning, was taken from there. And if these creatures are watching us while we're camping, they should understand the concept of how to maintain a fire, because when you're camping, that's pretty much all you do all night. You're putting on the sticks on the fire, the logs on the fire, you're blowing it to increase the fire. That's what you do all night long around the campfire. So if they're watching us from the woods, I think they would at least know that. And if there's other campers in the area, maybe they know how to nab that and maintain it. Maybe they don't know how to start it, but maybe they know how to maintain it. And another possibility too with that aspect, and with a few of these other aspects in here, except for maybe the ones that are after the person that had the encounter had slept, anything before that might be a little bit sketchy, because remember, the person banged his head. And with that, if there's a concussion, I mean, if you've had a nasty concussion, you know that sometimes things get a little bit fuzzy, and that may be where the whole fire thing comes from too. Maybe it was one of those dream state sort of things. I think they're called lucid dreams. Maybe it was something along those lines, but I think the other aspects, after the person had gotten some rest and then recalled the rest of the encounter, I think that that stuff is probably more on firm ground mentally wise. So those are a few theories about the whole fire thing in the story. Like I said, the whole idea of them taking care of this gentleman after he was wounded and then putting a fire there for him and stuff, that sounded really, really fascinating to us when this was sent to us. Yeah, and some of the comments that I see about other people talking about the fire stuff is, if you look right here, Kim Murray says, big lighter, of course. Lentini Linda, if I said that wrong, I'm sorry, Lentini Linda. They said probably the same way Neanderthals did. Also, we have some other reports that have come to us about them using tools. There's one particular report that we hope to get to share with you guys. We're trying really hard, but there was some audio glitches. It's kind of a bit of rough audio, but it was really, really cool. And it talks, the gentleman that we had interviewed, he was talking about there being a club at the place that he had an encounter. And I hope to be able to share that with you guys. We're still working on cleaning that audio up. Okay, another thing that I've seen brought up a few times is, of course, the "and no pictures." People saying that. If you're out there and you have the kind of accident that someone like that had, I highly doubt you will ever have your cell phone, your camera, anything with you, because as he said in his encounter, they had to bring his bag to him. So he didn't have his bag with him at the time of this encounter happening. So I think that with this, unfortunately, we do have to just take this story at face value. With the footage and the video, just so you guys know, then we know this is not British Columbia, but we happened to be out and we took some really cool footage of some kayakers out on the South Yuba River. It was really cool to see, and it happened to fit pretty well. I know it's not canoes, it's kayaks and rafts, but it goes with the story pretty well. So that's not British Columbia, that's not the location, and no, there's no pictures, so it's basically just a report that was sent in to us. Okay, and I see Rudy Bay says a bowl, really? Along with the whole fire stuff. I wouldn't be too surprised about bowls, because we know our ancestors going way back, they had very primitive bowls and pottery to be able to carry things. So if these are related to us and they are just a very primitive form of us that happens to be very hairy, I would say a bowl would be a reasonable thing for them to have along with tools. Okay, and on YouTube, Charles Coate, he said, I like this story. It showed me two things. Whether real or not is not prevalent to my observations. They most likely assessed that you were not a threat to them and decided, something done outside of instinct behavior, to help you survive. They are so in tune with their surroundings, they knew when people were headed towards them way before she did, like a sixth sense. Probably one of the reasons they are so elusive. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Yes, with that, Charles, I've heard a lot of people saying that they are more likely to have stuff happen if they go out there without the intention of kill Bigfoot. If you go out there with positive intentions, it seems to be that a lot of people have more positive experiences. I know that I know this is kind of a odd way of explaining it, but if I go outside and my intention is to catch my pet chicken is going to run because she knows I want to catch her. Now, if I go out there and my intention is just to sit there, be a part of the environment, she'll come right up and hop in my lap. But the thing is, I don't even have to start pursuing her. It's like she knows that this lady is planning on catching me. And I think that it's that way for pretty much all creatures. They know that feeling. It's just like when we have that feeling. If you're walking in an area where maybe someone is maybe being a little bit more threatening towards you, maybe it's someone that's kind of stalking you, you get that feeling and you know you need to get away from that person. Now, if you're walking in the same area and it's someone that's just there enjoying the moment, you don't get that same feeling. And so I think that maybe one concept is just when you go out there, don't go out there with the intention to kill Bigfoot, and maybe you might have a better chance. It's all about mindset, probably. And then also, Charles brought up the thing that they knew that people were heading towards them way before she did. If you think about it, when it comes to even animals, like dogs, for example, all dogs have good noses. Some dogs have better noses than others. Bloodhounds can smell better. If they're out there in the forest and they're, a remnant of part of our development, maybe they have way better hearing, or maybe they just have another perception that we maybe have dulled in us in our modern society. But yeah, I did think that it was interesting how in the report that was given to us originally, that the creatures knew that there were humans coming. So if that's the case, maybe that's why we're having a hard time being able to find them out there, because if they know we're coming before we know that they're there, it does make it difficult to be able to record them at all. And Wayne Warmack here, I'm going to kind of skip down. He said, I love these stories that portray Bigfoot as a gentle and compassionate being. It's good PR for them. Thank you for posting this. I think it's really nice to be able to show the other stories. It's just like with a good popular example be pit bulls. Everybody likes to say pit bulls are bad, pit bulls are vicious, pit bulls will rip your legs off. But then when you talk to other people, pit bulls are the best dogs, they used to take care of kids. It's like that with any creature, anything out there. There is not 100% bad, there's not 100% good. So with this story, I thought that it would be good to share it because it does show the other aspect. Since it's not a person that felt that they were in immediate danger, they were able to perceive a lot of stuff that's going on around them, and this gives us more things to kind of keep an eye out for, look for, maybe find some commonalities between other reports. Also in regards to fire, Mr. Duffy 81, a pretty popular YouTuber out there, a lot of people know him. He says, so the Sasquatch can make fire. I wonder how they do it. Somebody commented they rub quartz stones together to start a fire and build a moat around it so it doesn't spread. I've never tried rubbing quartz stones together, so I'll just trust that person on if that works. Somali pirate who pirates salami said that the rest of the time they sit around in the dark and eat everything raw. That's why they smell like Honey Nut Cheerios, no cooking needed. Somali pirate, just so you know, the Honey Nut Cheerios, if you've been a parent, you know that when a baby wets their diaper, it smells like Honey Nut Cheerios before it smells bad. At least to me. I don't know. Sean says it smells like Honey Nut Cheerios too. It's kind of maybe it's the way our noses perceive it, and it doesn't smell like Honey Nut Cheerios for long. And maybe I've told you too much about myself and the way my nose works. And it may be one of those things that maybe my nose is kind of a little bit more sensitive than others. I can smell somebody who's been eating asparagus a mile away in the restroom too. So maybe that's just me, but Honey Nut Cheerios was describing what someone would do in a restroom, commonly referred to as number one. Let's see. Mr. Duffy81 also said that many times I have found burnt pieces of wood either incorporated into a structure or laid out on the ground and exemplified. I always figured they're finding places where lightning struck, but maybe they're starting their own fires. That's really awesome to know there, and I'll have to take a look at some of his videos, see the things that he's found out there. Okay, and this is one question that I saw in a couple of comments. It was about the timeline and people saying, well, why didn't the brother get concerned or anything like that? You know what? I don't know. The email didn't say. It only referenced about being out there camping. So maybe this encounter happened during the time period that they were supposed to be out there camping, or maybe it was determined that, you know, hey, I'm going to give you a phone call at this point, and if I don't call you by X number of days, then you need to pick me up. So as for the timeline, since it wasn't referenced in there, I don't know. So I hope that answers some of the questions that you guys have had in the comments section here. And if you want to watch the original video, go ahead and check in the description and you can watch it from there. And if you want to see more of our stories as they come up and more of these reports that come across to us, make sure to subscribe and click the bell so that way you get notices when stories come up.